there's an irony in saying that TikTok is a waste of time for a man that makes his money on YouTube.
That is pretty ironic.
I'm not the one throwing stones in glass houses, but you definitely fucking are launching boulders, my friend. Like, what the fuck are you on? Like, TikTok, if someone, even if they just get enjoyment out of it, what's wrong with that?
Here's why Gen Z has no clue how to be happy.
So, alright, let's try that one then.
Recently, for the Daily Cancellation, we spent some time dumping on boomers after Jeff Foxworthy tried to blame the younger generations for the existence of participation trophies. And as I pointed out, the boomers label millennials the participation trophy generation, while neglecting to mention that they, the boomers, are the ones who invented participation trophies and gave them out. In fact...
Wait, Matt Walsh, we're going to put you at a little faster speed.
Oh my god, what a perfect pause, dude.
He's going to tell us why Gen Z
Tell us the
can't
way.
be happy.
The boomers invented almost all of the terrible things that are ripping our society apart. Things like veganism, the internet, the sexual revolution. I don't know if boomers actually invented veganism, but I'm blaming them for it anyway. But today we're gonna take the always enjoyable generational blame game and move it over to the younger set this time, Gen Z and millennials, my generation, technically.
Okay.
Though from a spiritual and emotional perspective, I'm really more of a disgruntled 85-year-old hermit who lives in a hollowed-out tree in the woods or something. I don't really identify with my generation.
I don't like that he lumps Gen Z with millennials, because that means, like, we're supposed to be in the same age group as him, but we're not.
I feel like, though, when they use those terms, they use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
It does feel like that from time to time.
Sort of dumb. But okay, let's go with it.
Yeah, all right.
And this Yahoo News article reminds me why. Here's the headline. Gen Z and millennials are disrupting the workplace as they're choosing to be jobless rather than work for a company they don't like. Now, there are different ways to be a disruptor. You could be the Elon Musk type of disruptor, doing new and bold things, challenging the powerful institutions, innovating. Or you could be the kind of disruptor who disrupts by standing off to the side like a useless lump and scratching your ass while everyone else gets the work done. Sadly...
Right, just because you say you'd rather be unemployed than work for somebody you don't want to work for because they don't share your values doesn't mean you're going to be unemployed. Like, obviously, there's a lot of Gen Z people, millennials, that are working for companies they don't agree with. A lot of people obviously don't agree with Starbucks's, with the fact they don't have unions and a lot of worker rights, but they still join them. And
Walmart.
They decide, we're going to change the workplace. We're going to do activism at the job, and they push for unions.
Yeah, but they don't like that shit either, though. Jordan Peterson's one of those people. I know, like, they don't agree on everything, but Jordan Peterson's one of those people who would bring up whole, like, you should change yourself rather than change the world around you. And, like, it's like, you're not even allowed to change the world around you because you're not a perfect increment.
What if you change yourself in that you decide to say, screw the job market, and the job market says, oh, fuck, we need to put up higher wages. Like, a bunch of these, like, fucking Republicans talk about how, like, places, they can't get workers anymore. Workers aren't working. And now a bunch of businesses are now putting up their wages, which isn't really universal, but it does happen in some cases. They put up their wages. These people who decide to become unemployed sort of did force the market to give them higher wages.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, this clash creates innovation.
Yeah.
You want this clash because it forces businesses to change.
Yeah.
So this is not negative at all.
By basically doing a boycott, they got better results. It's like, oh, you're going to tell them they can't do that? Like,
yes, you're a bad person.
Many of my peer group and younger have chosen the latter course. So the article says, quote, Gen Z and millennials are unique when it comes to demanding a work-life balance. They don't just want flexible work hours and environments. They want to work for companies that align with their own personal beliefs and values. And almost
yeah, I think everybody wants that, though. Like, doesn't everybody want that?
You're going to tell me that you would be surprised if conservatives left Disney after the whole thing about being woke? Dude, conservatives do this all the time. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh my god, look at his face.
Oh, Matt Walsh.
Oh my god, every fucking pause, it's so Dude, like, are you drunk? What the hell?
He's having a rough time.
Oh, damn.
Half of Gen Z and millennials would rather be unemployed than unhappy in a job, according to a new study. The career goals of Gen Z and millennials are changing power dynamics in the workplace. Almost 2 in 4 members of younger generations would prefer being unemployed than work in a job they don't like, according to the study. Most of the young people surveyed said they preferred to work at companies that shared their personal values. 2 in 5 Gen Zers and millennials said they would take a lower paying salary if it meant that they were purposefully contributing to society. Diversity and inclusion were also important to the survey respondents.
Wait, isn't that a good thing? like you have a group of people who are just like more selfless.
Yeah, it's
Like,
well, the thing is, the Republicans, they don't want you to be selfless. They want you to fight for money at the expense of other men and women and
you
children.
know, like I often dream of a world in which like all of us were like that. I'm not going to lie. Like,
Yeah,
imagine that world. It'd be pretty fucking
yeah, or instead of taking the
bothered.
money, you decided, I'm going to help the world. Instead of being a fucking oil tycoon destroying the land, you decided, you know what? What if we just weren't horrible human beings and we help nature? Okay.
Transition to something that won't destroy everybody and everything for a few decades of opulence.
Yeah.
Great, you had a few decades of living in like Dubai like opulence, but now the rest of the planet's burning and they're all gunning for your head.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you gonna do? You gonna murder them all? I mean, yeah, you can, I guess. You got the guns, but it didn't have to be this way.
49% of Gen Z and 46% of millennials said
Don't
that they
cheap
wouldn't work for a
out on
company
a
that didn't make
keyboard.
diversity a priority. Priority of Gen Z and millennials is their own happiness. In fact, 56% of Gen Z and 55% of millennials said they would quit a job if it interfered with their personal lives.
Okay.
Now, there's obviously nothing wrong with wanting to work for a company that represents your
Well,
values.
let him say
Wait.
his point. Let him say his
Okay.
point. Let's hear his
I mean, in
argument.
principle, that's a very good thing. The problem is in the perverse and stupid value system that so many of these people want companies to align with, as evidenced by their insistence on diversity and inclusion. Aside from value alignment, we're also told that millennials and Gen Z demand a better work-life balance, and that they would rather be unemployed than unhappy at their jobs. And this is where the real problems arise, I think. First of all,
Okay.
if you're a young person today, or even an old person, the balance you should be worried about is not work-life, but screen life. We're told that young people don't want work to interfere with their personal lives, but almost every waking hour of their personal lives are wasted staring at screens anyway. I could have more respect for the desire for work-life balance if you were going home to be, with your spouse and children, or you were trying to leave yourself time to engage in a productive hobby like woodworking or gardening or something. But the fact is that for many of these people, the lives they're trying to protect from workplace intrusion are hardly lives at all. There's something quite morbidly ironic about a man screaming that there's more to his life than being a wage slave, only to discover that the only thing he wants to do is scroll through TikTok and binge Netflix.
Oh my god.
Like,
Okay.
wait,
You
a
go.
few,
You
a few
go.
things. Okay, first off,
You go.
your personal life can include other things like your schoolwork and getting an education. Like, I remember working at Food for Less, and starting, I think it was my second year in college, and they basically told me, hey, we need you to work 45 hours this week, even though you're a full-time student.
Well,
And I told them, I'm going to be a full-time student. I showed them my schedule, and they told me, well, you still have to come into work.
hold on though. Just hold on. You're forgetting something. You know, there's an irony in saying that TikTok is a waste of time for a man that makes his money on YouTube. You're like,
That is pretty ironic.
yeah, like TikTok is a platform in which people make stuff. And you could argue it's not the most valuable thing, but it's still a form of art. It's still a form of creativity. So though that and again, Mr. fucking YouTuber, I'm not the one throwing stones in glass houses, but you definitely fucking are launching boulders, my friend. Like, what the fuck are you on? Like, TikTok, if someone, even if they just get enjoyment out of it, what's wrong with that? Like, it's like, it's just like you suppose so much about people, and it, like, again, it just, there's an irony, right? Like, this is just boomer shit.
And who gets to decide what you do in your personal time? You set your hours, you tell them what you're going to work, and that's that. But what happens in a lot of places that your hours aren't really secured.
Oh,
They
that's
tell you
another
to be
thing.
overly flexible. If you tell them you can only work a certain amount of hours,
They won't hire you.
those are the hours you're supposed to work. And yeah, sometimes they don't even hire you because you can't fill the hours. Sometimes they hire you and then they press you to work the hours you said you couldn't work.
But here's
Like when I
another
worked at
part.
Food for Less, they told me to
Here's
come in
another
at
thing, though.
4 in
Here's
the
another
morning,
thing. But hold
even
on.
though I couldn't.
But here's another thing, though. How much have you heard this point? The guy coming home because he's worked way too much. He's too tired. Now imagine if that guy didn't have to work 10 hours, 12 hours a day. Imagine if he had the energy to go do other things. Imagine what they go do. You don't know. Like, hell, I know people who go play sports at the park, hang out with their friends, go out and shop, play video games, make videos, just anything. Go to college because they have the time. But they don't because when you're overworked, you're too tired to care. So yeah, like, in your world, Matt Walsh, no one has the energy to ever better themselves.
feed to the flame of capitalism.
Shall we continue?
Yes.
Second, even leaving that issue to the side, the more fundamental problem with the work-life balance idea
Go on.
is that work and life are not two separate things. Life is work. It's a symptom of our...
I mean, you know, I kind of agree, actually. I mean, like, in a good life, your work should be your passion.
Well, like, imagine if your life is work, but your work, you fucking hate it.
Yeah, no.
It's like, then
yeah.
wouldn't that mean that you hate your life?
You know what's ironic? It's a pretty utopian
Yeah.
view of work.
Mm.
It's a pretty utopian view of work. Matt Walsh, thought you were a Republican, thought you were pragmatist.
Yeah.
privilege and entitlement in the modern industrialized West that we can even consider life and work as two distinct categories. Talk to anybody outside of that bubble about their work-life balance, and they'll have no idea what you're even talking about. Because life requires work. Every life is sustained by work. So when the self-righteous millennial or Gen Zer turns up his nose and says, I'd rather be unemployed than unhappy working.
Well, yeah, I mean, in other parts of the world, like, you know, they still go have fun, right? Like, you know, one thing that's been universal throughout all human history is the creation of alcohol. I mean, you don't think people were having fun with alcohol? You know, people were smoking and growing weed for as long as they've been growing and making wine. We've been getting fucked up for 10,000 years. Are you sure, Matt Walsh? Or are you just talking out your ass because you have a lot of predispositions about the world? Or did we just make alcohol and weed because we thought it was fun? There was no fun to be had in getting drunk or high. It's like, okay.
The question is then, who will be doing the work to sustain his existence? Whether you're happy or not, the fact of life is that your life requires work. And if you refuse to do it, somebody else has to. So who's that going to be? Your parents? Johnny Taxpayer next door? Maybe a combination? Whoever it is, if you are not living a life free of the work requirement, nobody can. You are rather living a life where that requirement has been offloaded to somebody else.
Well, here's the anarchist take, motherfucker, because here's the real enlightenment point of view. If there is work in society that is necessary and it's not good work, say the act of governance, because everybody doesn't like the government. Governing is a form of work. Or just cleaning the damn street outside your house. You know what the answer or a good solution to this would be? Is to just share it or minimize it. Capitalism fears automation because it takes away the very concept of a middle class and the creation of value from workers. But imagine if those robots did away with most of the work and the rest of the work we just shared. If we have to do any hard work, why make excuses to keep it? Why not go as far as we can to eliminate it and share the rest of it as equally as we possibly can?
And even in the capitalist framework, if you have a job that nobody really likes, they hate it, I'm pretty sure they'll do it if you concede to some things like a higher wage, better schedule, more time off.
That's the anarchist view too. If you can make the work good, if you can make it dignified at the very least, then yeah.
And if nobody really wants to work it because you don't give them those things, then like tough luck. The people should have been giving more for it anyways. Especially since people would literally rather be unemployed than work these hours because it ruins other aspects of their life. Like, isn't that sort of telling for the job itself? You'd rather just literally leave.
You'd rather do anything else.
There's a lot of people who work jobs they don't like, but a lot of them will pay better.
A lot of them pay enough to be worth the trouble.
You've made someone else your slave, in effect. You don't want to be a wage slave, so someone else is going to be your slave.
You just have poor people to do the work, obviously.
It's entitled.
Right,
It's selfish. In fact, it's evil. The refusal to participate in the difficult aspects of your own life is evil. It's a shameful thing. Third point. We hear that...
Yeah, and you're a fucking evil demon because you want to put the work off on poor people. Because I agree with you, there is work in society that needs to be done. Even in a world that's fully automated, there will probably still be work that needs to be done. But that work should be as dignified and as minimal as we can make it. I mean, that's the whole point of technological advancement. That's the whole point of doing science and making a society anyway, is to make life better. So this idea is that some people are just destined to work the shit job, it's a really fucked up way to look at society and progress.
All of these younger people are prioritizing their happiness, focusing on their happiness.
Yeah.
Giving up work for the sake of happiness.
That's a good
pursuing
society.
Happiness, thinking about their happiness, talking about happiness, obsessing over their happiness. And yet, shockingly, so few of them are actually happy.
Yeah.
There have never been people who talk so much about happiness and yet feel it so little.
And you don't think the generation that fought in World War II and saw concentration camps and then went on to see a Cold War for 40 years, you don't think they had any issues at all? You don't think all the brown and black and disabled people who weren't even, like, counted didn't have a problem? You just, okay, great, you're making up. I'm glad Matt Walsh lives in this fucking utopian world that I don't get to live in.
I find it a little funny to say, like, they're focusing on happiness, belittling it. And it's just like, well, I mean, you said your work is life is work. And what if, your work isn't what you like? Your work does things that's against your values. Wouldn't you sort of hate your work and then hate your life for it? It's like, I could see why they'd leave and find a better work, especially if work is your life, because then you'd actually like your life, because your work is aligned with what you like.
Stop being a bitch.
Oh boy.
Just work in the army.
Well, if only the coal mines were back in town, yeah.
It's value neutral, okay?
Isn't that interesting? Millennials and Gen Z are at once the most focused on their happiness and yet also the least happy. Perhaps there's a lesson there which we might consider finally learning at some point.
A lot of things also changed in that, Walsh, since, like, your glorious utopia days of wherever the fuck decade you want. Lots changed. A lot's changed. Are you sure it's only because of the jobs?
I mean, the buying power of the middle class back in his old days. I think he's a millennial too, but how old is Matt Walsh?
Guy talks like he's 40. I'm gonna bet he's 40.
He's 35. No, he's a millennial.
Why the fuck does he talk like he's... Dude, he talks like he's 10 years older than he is.
Because you got indoctrinated by the right.
Oh. You're a millennial, dude. Aren't you a millennial? Isn't he a millennial?
No, he is. And he said earlier that he himself is a millennial, but he has the mind of an 85-year-old.
Oh, so you're just one of the good ones. Gotcha. Gotcha. I love conservatives. I love you guys. I truly do. Your logic is fun to follow and then get lost in.
And the lesson is that happiness cannot be conjured out of the ether like a magical spell. You can't will yourself into it. You can't convince yourself to be it. Happiness is a byproduct of a well-ordered, well-situated, grounded, virtuous, productive life. That's the only way to achieve sustained happiness. You can find pleasure outside of that. You can, go to a back alley somewhere, buy some black tar heroin and find some pleasure that way, I guess.
I don't agree with that. I think that's so... Oh my god, that's so fucking dystopian. So the only way to have a happy life is if you make things for people?
Yeah, like...
What the fuck is that type of shit? No, the way to have a happy life is to make yourself the best version of yourself you can be. And whatever that is up to you. Generally, it's being smarter, being healthier, and being better educated generally. And that doesn't need to be college, by the way. I'm not excluding you trade schools. Just anything. Practical skills, like just being a more complete human being. Like a freer human being, a happier human being. You don't need to be productive to be happy. You don't need to serve someone else's wishes or needs to be happy. That's really fucking dystopian, actually. You can be happy on your own, making like yourself better. I don't understand, like it's weird. Conservatives are so against collectivism, but it's like you're only happy if you're productive. How the fuck?
Become part of the mold, the cog in the machine. You'll be happy once you find your place in it.
Like well, am I stupid? Like, I feel stupid right now. Like, am I just not understanding lingo? Am I missing something?
You could derive pleasure from an extra large fast food value meal or a $3
Hell yeah.
But you won't find happiness in any of those places.
Super sass me, brother.
And you won't find it in a directionless life free of work, free of challenge. Spend stare.
I agree. You need challenge in your life. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more challenging to fight against the fold than it is to become part of the machine.
To be your own person.
Isn't it easier to just sort of like, just combine yourself with whatever is already out there, like to not fight against the job that you hate,
Not
to
necessarily.
not be virtuous in your own sense of self. Like
I think generally speaking, if a person can justify their beliefs, that's better. You know, it's not about like I don't really care about what a person believes. Well, I do actually a lot, but broadly speaking, I think it's better that you know why you believe what you believe than just believing it. You know what I mean? Like being different to be different, still like a mold of its own, right? Like you're a contrarian.
yeah, but when it comes to living in society,
Contrarianism's the only route forward.
contrarian in that you're going to leave your job.
Ah, okay,
It's pretty rough.
that is pretty rough.
That's a lot of obstacles in your way, as in, paying rent.
Well, Matt Walsh said you're not living the best life if you don't work at Starbucks, making coffee for other people.
If you don't just work at places that make you want to kill yourself, you won't be happy. Like,
Exactly.
well,
Look at
okay.
him. Doesn't he know? Like, look at Matt. Well, look at that face. Look. You know what? Look at that face. Look at him. Doesn't he look so happy? Doesn't he just look like he's happy to be alive? Dude, he looks like he's about to shoot himself. Like, are you fucking joking with me? Matt, you look so unhappy. Like,
He looks tired.
you look so fucking sad, dude. How has this advice worked out for you? Like, I'm not pretending to be happy, but I also don't pretend to have fucking answers. Okay? Like, goddamn.
Maybe his definition of happiness has a standard that's much, much lower.
Lower.
Yeah.
Just mildly annoyed all the time.
Yeah.
That's his happiness.
As long as you aren't closer to pulling the trigger in Roblox.
Oh yeah, in Roblox. He's gonna do it in Roblox. God damn, I hate Twitch.
Somebody else provides for all of your many needs. As it turns out, life and work
Can't get in trouble
cannot
for
be
saying you hate
severed,
Twitch,
and neither
right?
can happiness and work. It takes work to be happy.
Yeah, I think so.
You have to do difficult things. You have to exert yourself. You have to give yourself over to some cause beyond yourself.
Oh my
Well,
god.
like, what cause then? Can you not choose the cause you want to work for?
Well, here we are, collectivist Matt Walsh. Just, oh man, you sound like a real commie, Matt Walsh. You sound like a real commie over there. Just join a bigger cause, greater than yourself. Join the People's Crusade. Oh my god, man. These people, like, I swear to God, they vacillate between fucking craziness. They vacillate in craziness so much.